So what would you do if you got every acceptance letter you applied for and then turned them all down?
Me and my childhood best friend were the only two people out of my entire grade, and I graduated with around 800 or 900 people. We were the only two people that didn't go straight into college.
At 20 years old, Sophia Austin has restored coral reefs off the coast of Mexico. She's backpacked solo through Croatia, Thailand, Laos, Indonesia, and Australia. And she's lived out of a single backpack across 3 continents, and she just got back from a trip to Costa Rica. She's 20 years old. Let that sit in for a second.
I woke up one morning, it was a Wednesday actually, and I was like, time to travel again.
But here's what nobody sees behind the passport stamps. Before any of that, Sophia was stuck. She had anxiety. She was numbing herself every single night. She said she was scrolling, and she was smoking and drinking just to avoid that feeling what she didn't want to feel. And she was terrified of being alone, terrified of being seen.
I always knew the smoking was killing me. I always knew that the social drinking was not going to take me where I wanted to go. But it's all I knew.
So at 18, she bought a one-way ticket to Mexico alone and forced herself to become the woman that she knew she was hiding underneath all of that noise. And what she found out there changed everything.
I wasn't brave enough to deal with.
A girl who couldn't walk into a room without panicking started connecting with strangers in countries where she didn't even speak the language. And now she's traveling the world, and she just got back from a trip from Costa Rica, building a life completely on her own terms. She chose her own path. She designed her own schedule, and she answers to nobody but herself. And she's not even 21 yet.
Getting to know the one who created me helped me to know myself.
So in this episode, everyone, we break down what actually happens when you stop running from yourself and start facing everything head on. Why saying no to the life everyone expected her to live was the scariest and best decision Sophia ever made. And the one realization that she says changed her entire life.
Fear is not a bad thing. If anything, it should be your encouragement.
So meet Sophia. I'm Gloria Stonelake, and this is UGC World. Hi, Sophia.
Hey, Gloria. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Sophia, you were just in Costa Rica, and you are 20 years old. Right now, you wake up whenever you want. You answer to nobody. You are living the life that most women in their 20s dream about. So, break down for me right now, what does a random Wednesday look like for you?
Random Wednesday. Okay. Well, I don't know. Typically Wednesdays I'll wake up. I like to go to yoga in the mornings. I'll do the 9 a.m. class at my studio here in my hometown. I will come home, shower, I'll talk to some people, get some work done, and go for a walk, hang out with my friends. I go to my parents' house a lot, so I'll go get to spend some time with my family. And yeah, that's just about it, honestly.
So your life is very different than the average 20-year-old's life. A lot of girls are living that life where they're clocking into a job and they don't like their life. They're clocking into a job that they don't like. They are hanging out with friends that they don't like. They're doing things every single day that they don't enjoy, and they feel a lot of women out there don't feel like they're living to their greatest potential. Do you feel like right now, Sophia, that you're achieving your greatest potential and you're living an aligned life to yourself?
I think that my life is definitely much more aligned than it used to be. I think I'm still getting to that point. I think, I don't know if the growth will ever be complete, but I will say I'm very happy with my life, which isn't something that I was able to say for a pretty long time. So yeah, it's definitely aligned. It's definitely what I need it to be right now and where I want it to be. Absolutely.
And break down that for me, because you found the life, right? And you said that you're achieving your greatest potential. So break down even a little bit at the beginning, when you were living a life that wasn't aligned, when you're going to college as well and getting application letters. Break down the difference between that mindset in that life, the old version of you versus the new version of you that goes get it and travels the world and does what she truly wants to do.
That's a good question. So I think for a really long time, my mindset was very small. I was very stuck in in the idea of, having to go to school, having to get some 9 to 5, that's the path to success. That's the path to happiness. And I was always chasing this idea of success, but I couldn't even really define what success actually meant for me. I think the biggest kind of shift that I've made is I really understand what that success looks like for me now. And it's not working a 9 to 5. It's not, you know, making, $60,000 a year and just living off of paid time off. So that was biggest shift for me for sure.
And everybody around you, your environment makes a very big impact on your thoughts and your choices and what you think and what we're supposed to think growing up. And you, it seemed like you have a different mindset than most people around you growing up. So, how did you kind of break out of that cage of like thinking the same way that everyone did? Did you start off thinking a different way your whole life? Or what kind of woke you up to this new world where, hey, I don't have to work a job for the rest of my life?
I think that for a really long time, I was stuck in that mindset. But when I was 17 years old and I was a senior in high school. And my high school experience, it was challenging to say the least. I mean, it was I think what a lot of other, teenage girls go through. The moment that really changed things for me was whenever I started receiving my first college acceptance letters, because
Wow.
I realized that I was looking at this letter saying, congratulations, like you get to spend 4 more years pursuing something that you don't actually care about. I had no idea what I wanted to study, right? So all my applications, I just put business, because what else does someone do? Maybe communication for a couple. No hate to any communication or business majors, but it wasn't what I was passionate about whatsoever. And I was reading this letter at 17 years old, sitting in my parents' kitchen, and I just got this like sinking feeling of dread. And for me, it was the thought of being in a classroom in an environment that hadn't given me what I knew was out there. The thought of doing 4 more years, it didn't sit right with me.
Wow.
So yeah.
You had that sinking feeling of dread in your stomach when you got those acceptance letters. When the average person, when they get acceptance letters, they get excited, and they get ready to like respond and they like feel good, but you didn't feel good. So what was behind that? What was behind that sinking feeling, and what was the cause to you feeling that way in that moment when you're opening up those letters and saying, hey, you're accepted to college?
I think I was really depressed. I was really depressed, actually.
Wow.
And um for me, high school was rough, as it typically is. Um but what it tied back to, I knew there was more. I knew that there was something else. I knew that, in my 17-year-old brain, there couldn't possibly just be, going to school, going to work, living in this paradigm of just feeling so stuck. And yeah, I guess that led to dread. I don't know if I guess that isn't like a typical typical response, but um yeah.
And you said high school was rough for you. That upbringing of high school, and high school is that phase that everyone, has where they start to think about, hey, where am I going to bring my life? And you said high school was rough. What made it rough for you?
Mm. I think that for me, mm, high school was rough for me because I think I was pretty depressed. I was using a lot of vices. I was um, performative, I guess you could say. I cared way too much what other people thought about me. And it all kind of just compounded into this not so great headspace.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but like high school is one of those phases where sometimes, like when you're looking to go one direction and your friends are looking to go another direction and things don't align, you might be looked down upon and you might be, ostracized. Like I've definitely felt that way in my high school career, definitely, where I didn't feel like I fit in. So it sounds like you were just confused in high school and you went through that phase where like you're thinking about life and you're like, this is not life. You had maybe a calling, you said, a calling to make a difference and make a life of your own instead of a life that was given to you by like the high school counselor. So with that being said, what were your friends' thoughts about your mindset back then? Like in high school with your friends, did they support you? Did they see this mindset that you had and did they look down upon you like a lot do? Or what happened? Did they even know that you're thinking this way? What was that dynamic between you and your friends in high school?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Um, I think a lot of my friends didn't understand, and that's okay, of course. Um, but no, for the most part, I wouldn't say that I was looked down upon. I think it was just it was new, and it wasn't something that was very understood. My close friends, of course, were supportive. They were excited for me. They were excited to see what I would be like posting on Snapchat and see what was going on. But if anybody did like look down on it, I wasn't aware of it. It's not my problem either.
Yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the day, not everyone is going to support us. And everyone wants us to do something in their own head. They see another version of us in their head that they believe that we should do. But it sounds like you had that mindset of like, whatever. I'm gonna do what I want to do, even though you were at a low point in your life. And you walked me through a typical Tuesday already of what your life looks like right now. But walk me through a typical Tuesday when you were at your lowest in high school. Literally, like when you woke up, what happened?
Oh boy. Well, it's not entirely a time I like to reminisce on, but I would I would have to set like 10 alarms for myself because I would never actually wake up. When I did wake up, it was like a last minute kind of thing when I would actually get out of bed and start getting ready for school. I'd go through my classes. I was lucky enough my later years in high school that I had my first period off. So it wasn't until like 9 I had to be there, I guess. But um it was a whole lot of going through the motions.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said you were stuck in a cycle of like work, school, TV, smoke, drink, maybe sleep, repeat.
Mhm.
And I can tell, like, even personally, I've had dark times as well. But even some people watching this might relate to you. And I think that your story could really help them out on how you got through this. So, how long were you in that loop before you realized, Sophia, it was like completely destroying you?
I think I always kind of knew. That's the thing too. I always knew that what I was doing wasn't good. I always knew the smoking was killing me. I always knew that the social drinking it was not going to take me where I wanted to go. But it's all I knew, I think. And
Mm.
for me, that realization, it came when I got very, very real with myself about what I actually wanted out of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're at that point where you've had that feeling where it's just your environment. It's just normal to be like this. And nothing is technically wrong, but nothing is technically right. Something just feels so off and you can't explain it to anyone. Is that the kind of the feeling that you're going through this time of your life?
That was exactly the mindset that I had and exactly what I was going through.
And then you got to a point like after high school where you're feeling this way. You applied to college because that's what everybody else was doing, of course. And you got the acceptance letters. And that's the dream for most people. So, what did people say around you when you told them that you are not going to college?
I mean, people were excited, I think. People were, I don't know if I'd say shocked, but it was definitely not the normal. Me and actually my childhood best friend were the only two people out of my entire grade, and I graduated with around 8 or 900 people.
Wow.
We were the only two people that didn't go straight into college.
Wow.
Yeah, that I know of, at least. Yeah.
That's very, very powerful. So you're one of the only people in your class to not go to college. Did that make you feel like you stood out like a sore thumb? Or how did that make you feel when you were literally one of the only ones that didn't move forward with college?
It didn't make me feel like I was sticking out. It definitely made me feel lonely, I think, to
Hmm.
pursue something that nobody else was, or being the only person, being one of the only people in my class that didn't go straight into it. It wasn't necessarily like embarrassment or like sticking out or being worried about kind of what other people would think, but it was more that I couldn't really talk to anybody about the feeling of loneliness. I couldn't really talk to anybody from school about that need, that like intrinsic desire to get out of the system. So it was definitely more like lonely than anything else.
And do you believe that other students in your class had that loneliness, but they just went forward anyway? Or do you believe that you and your friend were the only one who had that?
I'm sure other people did. That's one of the main things that I've learned is that like the people that seem to have it so together, they typically don't. I think that's what was really holding me back from like actually connecting with people for a long time is because I just thought I was so much more disorganized than everybody else.
Wow. So you felt like you were the only one or one of the only ones that was living a disorganized life where you weren't, you know, like as structured and organized with your life than everybody else. But what made you realize like, hey, I am not the only one like this. Nobody has their life figured out, no matter what it appears like on the outside.
It was traveling. It was absolutely traveling. It was meeting people from all over the world and talking to people from such different cultures and such different backgrounds, and yet everybody has the same anxieties. Everybody has the same joys. There are our human nature. It's all the same. Everybody is just as scared as you are. Everybody's just as happy as you are, or sad, or angry, or depressed, or it's it's an interesting thing to kind of realize and come to terms with that like there are people that relate. You're not alone. And that was definitely a really, really big lesson for me because for a long time I only felt alone.
What would you tell your past self? Like knowing where you are right now, what would you tell your past self that felt that loneliness back then?
I think I would tell her kind of what I just said. Everybody is just as scared as you are. And it's okay to like not be perfect. I had this awful, awful preconceived notion that everybody else's life was perfect, and my I just like I don't know if wasn't good enough was the right term, but it was definitely stemming from like a place of insecurity. Um,
Hmm.
but I just didn't know. I didn't know that other people were going through similar things as me.
Wow, that's powerful. You went through this transformation of um, being at your lowest low and then graduating with being one of the only people that did not go to college, that did not want to go to college and move forward with college. And then you got to a point where you felt lonely. And I know shortly after you booked that one-way ticket to Mexico at 18. So why did you? What really caused you to pull that trigger to book that flight and get out of Austin, Texas?
It was saying the acceptance letters. It was actually visualizing what another 4 years in a university would actually look like. It was, I guess, realizing that it was my only chance to get out, right? It was either that I did something or I went back into the system that I hated so much. And it was easier for me too. I had my parents' support, which was amazing. They encouraged me to go. They've always been very supportive in that sense.
So you were alone in Mexico, Sophia. No friends, no connections, and your friends back home, some of them were even like starting college and posting on Instagram and having the time of their lives and the college experience that you don't want to move forward with. So what did that actually feel like in Mexico when the rest of your friends were still going to college and living that life that you let go of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to that feeling of loneliness. I didn't really have anybody that could relate to what I was going through. And for me, my friends as well, they were it was hard for a lot of them going to college, being in a university, being around people they didn't know and in classes that were, way harder than they thought they were going to be. And I think if anything, kind of stepping away from that and kind of looking at what almost every single one of my friends were going through objectively, it kind of just made me not want to go to school even more. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And what was the moment where you realized, like, okay, this feeling of loneliness, this feeling of being like completely alone, having my own mindset around life, right? It's not going anywhere, this loneliness. When was the moment that you realized that you actually had to make a real move to stop feeling this way?
It wasn't until I had already been traveling for 6 months. And I think for the first 6 months I was traveling, I was running away from some things that I didn't really want to deal with. That definitely kind of tied into why I was wanting to leave Austin. But it wasn't until like 6 months into being abroad that I realized that the majority of my issues are self-inflicted. And the majority of and these feelings of loneliness are solvable.
And how did traveling help you solve this inside of you, this missing piece inside of you? What did traveling to Mexico, and fill me in on the rest of your adventures after Mexico, but what did traveling really do to help you piece things together?
It showed me how much more there is to what I thought I knew. I was in Mexico and I was volunteering with a program doing coral reef restoration and research. It was always something I was passionate about, and my parents thought it was a safer route since I would be like on a roll sheet. Somebody would be checking that I was there, making sure that I was okay and safe. After Mexico, I was an au pair in Croatia. I was working with a family there. They were an American family that had moved abroad a couple years before, and I got to travel a lot of Eastern Europe with my weekends off. But this whole time that I was doing all these amazing things, I still had that feeling of unfulfillment,
Mm.
I guess. Which is interesting to say because I know that like I was living the dream. Like, what do you mean you were sad and depressed? Like, I was living in all these amazing exotic places, and I was living the dream. Honestly, there were so many. I had so many friends that were, I don't know if I want to say jealous, but that wanted what I was living, but I hadn't solved the root issue.
Mm.
I was still depressed, unfortunately. Um,
What was
and
the root issue?
I didn't know who I was,
Mm.
and I was running away from traumas and from emotions and feelings that I didn't want to deal with. I wasn't I wasn't brave enough to deal with. I was brave enough to book a flight and go by myself, but when it really came down to it, there was a lot of self-growth that needed to occur. And unfortunately, just booking it across the world doesn't always solve that immediately.
So for you, looking back at your journey so far over the past like 2 years through this transformation, through the travels,
Yeah.
what were the missing pieces?
I got closer to God, in all honesty. I was I was in a pretty dark place, and he always meets you where you are. But I started to realize that my anxieties, my depression, my shortcomings, my embarrassments, it all stemmed from a lack of knowing who I was, right? And I genuinely believe that getting to know the one who created me helped me to know myself.
Mm, wow. So one of the missing pieces was God. And it's very
Yeah.
powerful. Getting to know our creator so we can understand ourselves and who we are. But traveling also has a huge impact on people, whether they know it or not. And starting something, starting a project or starting some sort of fulfilling adventure to make money or to take back control of their finances to fund travels. And starting new projects like that also can be fulfilling. So, what else has helped you kind of fill in the missing puzzle pieces with your fulfillment, Sophia?
Traveling, I think, and being abroad, being in new environments and stripping away the old identities that were attached to my hometown, attached to my relationships that I used to have, that I still have, but the relationships that I grew up with. Really getting down to the core of who I am when nobody around me knows who I am. How do I show up when not a single person around me knows who I am?
Mm,
Right? When there isn't that pressure to perform, when there isn't that pressure to be perfect or fear of being judged, you know?
wow, that's super, super powerful. So, you said that your environment completely reshaped your identity and helped you with God as well, that helped you become more true to yourself.
Mhm.
That's very powerful. And then also, like, I know since we've had a previous conversation, I know that you've done some work as well, like online. And I know that you're crushing it with what you're doing to fund your travels. So, what are you kind of doing, and how is that giving you fulfillment as well and helped you shape your new identity?
I started creating content, and that's been honestly really fulfilling, just getting to shed that fear, I guess, of being perceived and again step into that place of authenticity. I've been able obviously to work with you and the team as one of the academy advisors, so I get to kind of just help people step into this new version of themselves, which has been really, really cool.
Wow, that's powerful. And for you, then you found yourself over time and you went through this crazy transformation of being depressed and smoking and gossiping with your friends to now living the life that's fulfilled because you put these puzzle pieces together in your life. So, What would you tell that girl right now that's watching this video, that was in the place that you were? What would you tell her? One line, what would you tell her to just transform, to just take that leap, to book the flight? What would you tell her to transform her life into a life that she actually wants to live?
Fear is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. And if anything, it should be your encouragement. It should tell you that you're doing something right because there's never going to be any growth if you stay within your comfort zone.
Wow. And obviously, you leaned into that fear over time and you traveled the freaking world. And fill us in on all of the countries and places that you've traveled, if you were to like put them in a list and why you traveled there.
Okay. Okay, awesome. I started in Mexico, obviously. Went over to Croatia. I was an au pair there. So my home base was in Eastern Europe. I got to do a lot of weekend trips around there. So I did Austria, Hungary, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I always butcher the name, but sorry. He went through Italy and then booked it over to Southeast Asia. I traveled through Thailand, Laos, Indonesia, and then down through Australia as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of countries in a small amount of time. And most people don't even do that in their lifetime. Travel to that many countries, which is truly, truly amazing and a huge, huge milestone. So what gave you that kind of like motivation to keep going, keep traveling to all of these countries? Why did you keep traveling yourself?
Well, I do want to say I don't recommend doing that many countries in that short amount of time. In all honesty, I got really burnt out because I was in a new location every like week or 2 weeks and I had
Wow.
zero stability. So I did end up coming home after I was in Australia. But what kept me going, it all kind of just worked out, honestly. Like that sounds, I know that's like not the best answer, but everything kind of just continued to fall into place. And the people I met, the places I went, the traveling expenses, things would just like work. And it was the first time that I had ever like kind of felt that alignment, even though I was like very much burning myself out. There really was just this like sense of peace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose if you're traveling to that many countries, like week by week, it can be exhausting. So what travel advice would you give like the new travelers watching this video right now?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um, the advice that I'd give, I think I'd say follow your gut, right? I know everybody kind of says that, but if you have a desire, if you have an urge to go somewhere, you should act on it. Like act on it. Do it scared. Do it anyways, even if you're terrified. You just have to do it. And the people that you meet when you're traveling are some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet in your life because
Wow.
it genuinely takes a certain kind of person to book it across the world to go somewhere new, and the kind of people that you're going to meet are going to change your life.
Name one person on your travels that changed your life and why did they change their life? What did the conversation look like?
My best friend, actually, I met her in Thailand. Her name is Danny, and we ended up traveling through Thailand and Laos together before we kind of split off. And she has shown me what true, genuine, wholehearted love and friendship looks like.
Mm.
That's my girl. Like we still talk every single day, and it's been like 2 years.
Oh my gosh. So you found your best friend on your travels.
Yeah, I did.
That's very pure and that's very wholesome as well. Very cool. So for you then, Sophia, like what is next for you? What is the next travel that you're planning on going? Because I know that you just got back from Costa Rica. What is next for you? What are your goals and missions around this?
Well, I'm actually moving to Costa Rica for a couple months, in like
Wow.
2 weeks. So
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I woke up one morning, probably like a month ago. It was a Wednesday, actually, and I was like, time to travel again. And so I booked a flight to
Yeah.
Costa Rica. That was the trip that I just took, and I love Austin. I love my hometown for what it is, but there's a certain capacity for how much growth you can do in your hometown, right? And I think that I'm at a place where I'm ready to move somewhere maybe a little bit more permanently. We're kind of going where the wind takes us right now, but yeah, I leave in like 2 weeks and I'm selling everything in my apartment and just going.
Really? You're selling everything in your apartment?
I'm throwing a party and I'm having all my friends come over and they're gonna buy everything.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You're selling everything. I feel that, to be honest. So what was that final straw that was like you're like, nah, screw it. I'm selling everything. I'm going like, was it because you're like looking just for like a more spontaneous life? Or you're searching for that just more adventure in your life? Or what besides like that feeling of like just wanting to just like that random Wednesday waking up and just booking a flight, right? Or wanting to book a flight. What else helped you like realize that, hey, I'm gonna kind of cut ties with my stuff, I'm gonna sell my stuff, and I'm out of here? Where did that come from?
Well, honestly, I think originally it came from being abroad for so long. When you live out of a backpack, you definitely are not a materialistic person, or it makes you not a materialistic person. The stuff in my apartment, it's just stuff. And of course, I have my things that I'm like attached to that I'm not selling, but it's just stuff. And I think for me, the timing again, like it just kind of worked out perfectly. My lease is going to be up here in 2 weeks, and I think I've been looking for something different. I've been looking for a
Mhm.
change. I've been back in Austin for about a year now. I've done a couple travels sporadically here and there, but yeah, I'm ready to I want to surf. I want to go live in a little beach town and work on my Spanish and create more content, right? You can't really be a travel like lifestyle content creator if you're in your hometown. So, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. And how are you supporting all of these travels? What advice would you give to that girl that's looking for a way to support her with her travels financially?
Start working with UGCA. Like I can't even it's probably sounds so cliche, like considering we're literally on a podcast and I'm part of the team, but becoming part of this team and being able to just like fully dive into content and fully dive into this like version of myself that I think was still kind of shielded for a while has entirely changed my life. So,
Wow.
highly
And
recommend. We're awesome.
And would you recommend like those girls that have not picked up their phone and created content before, like you are, and have not taken that leap to work with someone to help them, you know, to help them live that life? Like, what would you tell them, that nervous girl that's possibly listening to this who has never picked up her phone before to film content? What would you tell her?
Oh my gosh, it does not need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be happening. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's like literally you like for like 2 seconds with some text. Anything is content. And as soon as you're able to recognize that like doing your dishes can be content. Okay? Like driving your kids to school if you have kids. Like going to the grocery store, grocery haul. Hello. There's
Yeah.
so many different things that you can do and it doesn't need to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect content. And whatever lifestyle creator people that you follow online, I promise at one point they were exactly where you're at right now. And the only difference is that they did it anyways.
Mm, powerful. And Sophia, like, how much are you actually making per month to support you and your dreams of traveling and living that free life that you always wanted to live?
As of right now, I'm like collectively from everything, I'm bringing in around 4 to 8 thousand dollars on a monthly basis. It ranges a
Wow.
little bit depending on the kind of work and all that, but yeah.
That's very powerful. And how does that make you feel that you make more than the average person in America does at like a 9 to 5 job?
It makes me angry, honestly,
Mm,
because it's so accessible and it's so possible for so many people. Like the barrier for entry is underground. And it can still be hard for people to realize that.
wow. Yeah. So you've gone through this crazy transformation, Sophia. Thank you for hopping on this podcast as well, sharing more about your story and your adventures. Sophia, for those people listening that want to connect with you, where can they connect with you on social media?
My Instagram is Sophia Ann. It's got four N's at the end of Ann.
Wonderful. Awesome. Guys, we'll put Sophia's Instagram in the description below. Go follow her. And again, thank you so much, Sophia. Final words for that viewer that was in the same position you were like 2, 3 years ago. Final words.
You got this, and we're all rooting for you. And we're excited to see what happens.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia.